Hi, today I want to talk about rediscovering your voice, even when they've tried to convince you that nobody wants to hear it. Welcome to Rediscover You. I am Sharinda Pringle, author of The Journey of Rediscovering Me. I wanted to get that topic out here today for a few reasons. Few of you know me and you know that I have a visual impairment. Someone slid up in my inbox and they said, "Man, when you're reading, it looks like you're holding a phone and you're about to eat it." Kiki. I came to the conclusion after looking at that person's page that they were one of those boss ladies who was stuck in life and didn't have a voice, but were not willing to admit it. I remember being a little child, about 5 years old, when I was really learning to read and discovered for myself that I was blind and not blind, visually impaired, but to a sighted person, I could see everything. To a sighted person, I could see nothing. To a blind person, I could see everything. So I'm straddling fence in the world in between. You know how you don't fit over here, but then you don't fit over there either. And you're trying to fit in, especially as a kid. Well, they determined that I didn't fit in because I was different. My first encounter of finding out that I was different was doing kindergarten crayon and just doing a little coloring, and I colored that crayon. I picked up any crayon because I couldn't really distinguish color. They had fruit. There was an apple, there was an orange, and a banana. I love bananas, so I picked up a crayon, started coloring the banana, picked up a black crayon. I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. You know how you just going with the vibe and you don't think that you're doing anything wrong. You're being you. The only you know how to be. And then they being the teacher, started to chastise me. I had two cute little ponytails and she grabbed one of my ponytails and pulled it, which was normal for a Catholic school because they had that corporal punishment thing going on. So I was just glad it was a ponytail that she had grabbed. Well, they called my mom and they accused her of feeding my sister and I rotten food. You ever been in trouble when you didn't even know why you were in trouble? My mom yelled at me and she's like, "Why don't you know your colors?" I had no explanation for why I didn't know my colors. I just didn't know. You know what you know, and then you just don't know what you don't know. You know, have you ever been in a situation that makes you feel small and you don't even know for years why it makes you feel small? That's the reason a lot of us have to do that inner child work because for a long time, I used to, every time it was time to read and I had to do oral reading, let me grab something to read. Because I read, I would have to hold the book up like this. I started to feel uncomfortable. I know I'm not the only person who has ever felt uncomfortable in the skin that they're in just because that's the hand that they've been dealt, but you don't know how to react because they think something is wrong with you. My solution to the problem was every time they call my name to read, I'm going to the bathroom. I would get up, raise my hand. I need the bathroom pass. I gotta pee. Um, that happened for years. K through 8, none of the teachers really would address it. If they did address it, they addressed it in anger. And I had one particular teacher in 5th grade who forced me to read. And I would grab my book and I'm like, now just read the first page, the first few words of this. How the hell did I get here? This is the question I ask myself as I lay my big, well, I ain't gonna say the rest of that, but I would cry because they made me feel so small. And the kids would laugh and be like, oh, Renda looked like she's about to eat the paper. As I got older, I literally had a fear of reading, even though I was very smart, very intelligent. You ever, been in a situation where you have all the skills to do what you need to do, but then you sort of kind of don't because people are not willing to see you for who you are. And so you start to dummy down and play small. For a long time, people thought that I was in like special education classes or something because they like, can you read? We don't never hear you read. And I'm like, you just heard me read the other day, and then you made fun of me because you said that it looks like I was eating the paper. As I progressed in high school, I knew I was small enough. I was smart enough. I'm sorry. The same kids who would make fun of me would start to cheat off of my paper because I'd gotten to that point that I don't know how I'm going to see it, but I'm going to see it. Please just don't call on me to read. And I did what I needed to do to get where I needed to be until the SAT test. All of my friends are opening up their test results. And there were a few young men who used to borrow my answers, even though they were making fun of me as I was doing this. And they're like, what did you get? What did we know you passed? What did you get? You ever knew that you messed up without even understanding how you messed up? They were quoting all of these test grades. And I opened mine and it was so tiny I couldn't see it, but I knew it didn't look like theirs. Mine kind of had single digits and theirs had double digits or however SAT scores went. However it went, I didn't do well and they did very well. I didn't get reasonable accommodations because during that time, 1986, There was no reasonable accommodation, and I wore glasses, and so you must be able to see, even though we thought that you had some type of kidney disease because you got up so many times to use the bathroom. What I was doing was taking in bits and pieces of information and going back to my desk in almost every class, trying to figure out the work that they had written on that chalkboard in their own writing, when all my mom did was ask them, can you guess, give her that piece of paper that you're writing from so she can see how to do her work? You ever been in a situation where all you needed was that one thing to get you over, and nobody was really there to give it to you? When they looked at those test scores and then it's like, let us see yours. And then they're like, I'm like, what? I'm like, what? Oh, I feel so bad for you. How did you do that? How did I do what? As I thought about it, I had to have done terribly on that test. And I sat at my desk and I cried, and they kind of laughed, and it's like, oh, you still smart though. You still smart because we get ready to go to the school of our choice. You ever felt used, abused, unseen, unheard, and misunderstood? They were going to the school of their choice, and I was going to take another one of those same tests at a school that we called the College of Last Chance, which was really kind of derogatory because it's a junior college. I ended up starting my career at a junior college anyway. But at the moment I enrolled or attempted to enroll at the College of Last Chance, I flopped on that really, really badly too, because it was some more of those little scan documents with the little circles and the tiny words, and I couldn't see it. And some people would say, why didn't you just tell them that you couldn't see it? I had told them so many times, and nobody heard me when I was 5, when I was 6, when I was 7. Until at some point, I put my voice on mute because either they didn't see me or they didn't hear me. I knew they didn't understand me. You ever been in a situation in your life where people just don't understand you? The you that was born here in the body that you are currently in the moment in time that you are currently in, that you didn't even have the ability to ask for or have any say so in. So there I was, laying on the couch, having flunked the entry test for the College of Last Chance in a small town that had a bus, public transportation that ran like every hour and a half, 2 hours. The only jobs in the town were cashiers, working at the local movie theater, or fast food. And I'm thinking, wow, thank you, Mom. I thought you, I know you thought you were doing me a favor moving me to this small town for my 4 years of high school. Now I'm stuck. You ever been stuck and don't see any way out of your situation? I didn't know really how I was going to feed myself because anybody who even read about 1986 knows that that was not a good year for people who had parents or siblings or cousins or relatives or neighbors who were stuck in their own situation because the influx of drugs in every community had gotten so many people stuck in the situation. And so the people around me were stuck with their own thing and they didn't have time to worry about me. I laid on that couch and I got into a really bad argument with a relative because they had the local dope man over. And as I'm laying on the couch and they walked past me and they licked their lip like I was a pork chop, I must admit, I looked pretty good when I was like 17 years old, and as he walked up the stairs and I pretended like I was sleeping, he said, I'm going to get me a piece of that. You ever had a situation in your life that got you unstuck real quick? I put on my shoes as he walked away and went in the room. It was summer. My relative came downstairs and I looked at their eyes and they were dilated. And everyone has that thing that they can do to you to make you upset. I told them, you sicken me. And they went on to use some profanity and like, you're blind, the dagger. I haven't always been so polished. We were in the kitchen. They had a broom. I went to the drawer and I grabbed a knife. Have you ever been so messed up in your mind, in your situation, that you thought that something stupid that could get you locked up was the answer to your problem? I looked at them. I threw the knife in the sink. To this day, I'm not really sure how I got back to Chicago. When I got to a different place, I'm like, whew, I'm not stuck no more. I'm in a big city. I'm going to be able to do something with my life. You ever lied to yourself because you take you wherever you go? And they have already implanted in you the negative self-talk that is needed to make you feel as though your voice is irrelevant and you feel like you have a pillow over your head smothering you. My grandfather, I love my grandfather. He said, a man don't work, don't eat. which basically meant you need to find you something to do because you can't just lay up in here and not eat. Yes, sir, I said. Again, it was right in the heart of the crack epidemic. I was in the safe haven because my grandparents stood on business. They don't know what you're going to do, but you were going to do it there. And for real, a man don't work, don't eat. Someone told me about Ready Man. I'm like, what in the world is a Ready Man? For those who don't know, it's day labor. I'm like, okay, let's see. Working in a factory, I can do that. You ever absolutely hated the idea of something, but you were so stuck in pushing yourself to get unstuck that you said you're going to do it anyway? I went to the day labor back then. 335, not 75, 335 was the minimum wage. They made you do some strange things for 335. First, they had me proofing Christmas cards. And I'm like, damn. I thought I had escaped doing this. They fired me. Then they had me. I didn't know that the screws, in order to get the grooves in the screws, you stick them through a drill, and the drill has the little meter, centimeters or whatever, and measured out. Now, I did the best I could. It was like threading a needle. How many of y'all kind of get the idea? I can't thread a needle. Learned how to thread a self-threading needle, but no, them didn't exist yet. And so I messed up thousands of dollars worth of screws, and they fired me and didn't pay me. Now I'm feeling very, 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 very small. You ever felt like you were just going to crawl under the bed and stay there for the rest of your life? I went back home again, and my grandfather didn't care what I was talking about. On everything he loved, a man don't work, don't eat. And that included everybody but my grandmama. Somebody told me that they were hiring at Spiegel Outlet, which was a catalog company, which was real big back in the day. I went to Spiegel Catalog Company, and there were like thousands of people, because in Chicago anyway, everybody knew somebody who had worked at Spiegel. And I'm standing in line and I'm like, God, I need a job. I need a job. This is a good job. Back then, in some places now, $10.50 an hour was good, which was great when minimum wage was $3.35, and you had to do some strange things for $3.35. And so I was doing good. Spiegel was on their business. They had large print bolded for the little test that they gave you. I was like, oh, yes, this is the first time I've seen a test like this. And come on, Jesus, come on. And then they asked for an eye test. Here we go. I can see the E. All I got for you is that E. That E is looking marvelous as usual. And so let me tell you how God works. You ever experience God when you're right in the midst of an encounter and understanding that when you ask God for an encounter, it don't start off good. But I'm in the midst of an encounter. I had asked God, could you please help me? And I had been praying since the day I had been laying on that couch and I didn't know where I was going, but I had to get the hell up out of there. It was getting late. There were about 200 people still in line. You know how you want to go home? Especially if you work in retail and the people are still showing up, wandering around the store and taking stuff to the counter. And you're like, it's time to go. Thank God. This was the folks who were doing the eye test. There were a few hundred people there, and they said, is there anybody who just got some glasses? I'm like, well, pick me. They say if you just got your prescription and you can prove that you just got your prescription for your glasses. Ironically, I had just got the prescription for my glasses. And I had the prescription still in my purse from picking up my glasses a few days before. I got the job that day. You ever called on the Lord and He answered? First, I believed in the power of something greater than me having the ability to move me. Then I asked, can you please, whew, I don't know what I got to do. I would literally walk through the pits of fire and trust that it's going to be okay. But I cannot live in this environment. Then I kept getting pushed out there by my grandfather, who would not allow me to be stuck. Like, you won't get glued to a couch up in here. You got to go. And then I believed as I walked into encounters that did not work for me. And I continued to walk and continued to walk and got fired a few times until I came upon that place where I wasn't lying. They asked who had just gotten glasses. I worked at Spiegel for about 5 years. And ironically, as they were started doing the barcoding, and they had like the little zeros that had the line going through them. By the time I started messing up stuff and they wanted to fire me, it was time for me to get laid off anyway, because they were about to shut down. Have you ever experienced something in your life where, because you were not afraid to speak, something blessed you? For some people, that has been a long time. Life situations still have you feeling like this. Like I felt when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, when I felt small. And you know how you want to crawl under a rock and stay there. And As you progress in life, you manage to finish school, you manage to get that boss job, you manage to do all the things that people expected you to do, even while they were belittling you, and you still feel discomfort. You still feel stuck. You still feel uncomfortable in your house. I had a client today, and she was talking about how when she is at work, she's over programs, she's over people who run systems. They value the words that come out of her mouth. And when she comes home, they, being her fiance, tells her, why you speak like that? Why basically have you relaxed your tongue? And I don't like the way you talk. Uh, you shouldn't say that word. Let's just say I'm getting ready. You shouldn't say that word. And he was picking and picking and picking away at her, chipping and chipping and chipping away at her self-worth, chipping and chipping and chipping away, building her self-doubt based on something that he knew had haunted her past. She had a learning disability growing up. And she decided today, as I was coaching her, that she refuses to be seen outside of her house and not to be seen in what's supposed to be her place of comfort, her home. For some people, it's the opposite. I'm not going to go into it, but I remember being respected by the people that I served within state government, but having management to try to silence me and work my fingers to the bone while making me feel as though I was worthless. You ever been in a situation where you pouring into people around you and people are chipping and chipping and chipping away at you? The truth is, everybody's experienced that to some point. Some people choose to leave that situation. Leaving is easier said than done. Some people get caught up in that situation. And if you ask them, they don't say that they're stuck. Stuck, by the nature of its definition, is knowing that you are capable of doing something that is beyond what you're currently doing. And that situation is weighing down, and choosing to stay in that situation because of the F word. Not that F word, the F word, fear. Having a good job and being afraid to venture off to other things, having a business and being afraid to succeed for the strangest reason. What will people think if I outgrow them? With the job, how am I going to pay my bills? With living in what some of us call the ghetto, if I leave, what is my family going to say? And how am I going to survive outside of my environment? With situations of abuse in a narcissistic household, relationship, environment. And I named all three because they show up in different places. The various the microaggressions that show up at work, microaggressions that show up in your home, where people are chipping and chipping and chipping away at you. Hold on one second. Alexa, off. I didn't ask Alexa to talk, but Alexa has her voice. And just chipping and chipping away at the very fiber of who you are, to the point that you don't even know who you are. I want to offer a few things that you can do to silence the noise of the days in your life. The people who, even if they're not saying anymore, have planted in your mind that you can't, you won't succeed. You can't start that business. You can't have freedom and joy in your home. Those children will never get better. It's impossible to break generational cycles. I want to offer you something in silencing the they, even if the they is you. If you learn nothing else from this conversation that I'm having today, I want you to take away one thing. We control the power of our mind. Belief is the start of transformation. If you can start on today with changing the way that you talk to yourself, I promise you 3 days from now, you won't be the same. If you can go from saying, I can't, and actually keep track of every time that you use the word can't, and actually say, it's difficult, but how can I go about doing it anyway? It's difficult for me to figure out a way that I can leave this job where I do work that I love, but I can't stand these people because they have a pillow over my face and they're muzzling my voice. And start to believe that it is possible. And get a pen and paper and start to journal. Start to write out your thoughts so they're not clouding your mind. And don't read them that day. The funny part about when you do that, when you go back and you read it the next day, like, who wrote that? Because you don't even recognize that those are thoughts that you had. And as you progress in learning to speak positively, to speak over yourself, you open up the floodgates that will allow you to absorb more pieces of information that will start to break away the adhesive of that fear that has you stuck. Again, my name is Sharinda Pringle, the author of The Journey of Rediscovering Me. Thank y'all for listening to me for today. If you can do me one favor, if you have not done so already, subscribe to Rediscover You so that you can get more information. Share this to somebody who you think may need it. On October 4th, I'm having a webinar. It's totally free. I will be on for an hour and a half, and I will be teaching you a system of setting boundaries, even with yourself, that will allow you to find your self-worth, to live authentically, and to get your voice back. Go ahead, get your free ticket. It's totally free. And I respect my own time so I don't waste anybody else's. I can't wait to see you there. Right now, I'm getting ready to get packed. I have a open house tomorrow. And right after that open house, I'm getting ready to get on a plane and go to New York to do something that I didn't even think about to think that it was possible. I'm going to New York City, Times Square, where I will have a billboard, and it will be this space right here in this book, right here, on a billboard on top of the I Love New York gift store next to the Old Navy in Times Square. If you're in the New York City area, go back, check it out, tag me on it. After that, I will see you all October 4th. In the meantime, I'm going to pop on here as much as I can. I'm going to try my best to go live in Times Square. And I can say this because my mama don't watch this. I am so excited for my mother to be going to Times Square with me. She just knows she's going to New York. She needed a trip because we just lost my aunt and she's going through her own overwhelming. But to be able to see my mom's face and she's looking at my face in this book, if you haven't gotten it, $15 that will change your life. But to see that and see her reaction and understanding that things that you didn't even think about were possible, exceedingly abundantly, more than you can ask or think. Subscribe, like, share, purchase the rediscovery of me, the journey of rediscovering me. It's on Audible. A Dream Smith, the young lady who read it, kind of scary because she stole my voice. But it's not a self help book. If you read it, though, immerse yourself into the story, it will help. Even if you're not a believer in the Creator, the Most High, believing works for anybody. If you can believe, you can succeed. God bless y'all. Until we meet again. Bye bye.